Don't let the strangers into your house. Hey everyone, welcome to Princess of Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we're here with my blind reaction to The Strangers. This is a donation reward for Venom, as most of these tend to be. But this is one that I've heard about and just don't really know a lot about the specific plot. All I know is it's like a home invasion thriller. Um, and I don't really know much of anything beyond that. Because just calling it a home invasion movie, it's not much to go off of. Obviously, the formula and idea of a home invasion film is pretty simple, but there is a lot you can do with that. I mean, the first Purge movie was basically a home invasion thriller. So you gotta try to wonder here, where are we going to go with that? What is the context behind the home invasion? What is the kind of situation going to be? How are things going to go? Who, if anyone, is going to die? A lot of questions in regards to the specifics surrounding this. Now, I've seen like an image from this movie of like, I assume the home invaders wearing masks. And that's kind of the only iconography I really know about this movie either. Um, I don't know if that's like just the only big iconography from The Strangers, but it's the only thing I've like seen. And as for like just hearing what people think about this film, it's mostly just been like good, not great, but not a lot of bad reviews from what I've seen. Mind you, I haven't seen a lot. So, to be fair, there might be more negative stuff out there for this film than I know of. But the consensus seems to be just good. Not great, just good. Again, from what I've seen. Um, this is not super long. In fact, it's actually fairly short. But it is probably pretty like I said, kind of simple if it's just a home invasion, so it doesn't really need to be too long. I feel like trying to like extend a home invasion movie too long would probably start to get a little boring. Like the only way you could really do that is if you have something else going on. And this, I think this is just a home invasion, unless I'm wrong and I don't know. I don't think there's any like big twists or additional like big contexts to that. But maybe I'm wrong. That's altogether possible. Um, I also don't know who's in this at all. I don't know if there's any actors like I would really recognize. I don't know if there's like anyone that would like really stand out to me. That's just gonna remain to be seen. I don't know. But I am interested in seeing it. It's one of those movies where it's like, yeah, I've kind of been vaguely interested in seeing it for a long time now. Um, but never really put forth the effort into trying to actually do so. This came out in I believe the late 2000s. So it's been quite a while since it first came out. And I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean anything with me, because there's a lot of movies much older than that I haven't seen. But that just for a movie that I have wanted to get to and just never got around to, even if just kind of vaguely, that's still like showing you how much I can tend to put things off. How much I can tend to procrastinate when it's something I'm not like super invested in. Especially because my attention tends to kind of automatically veer towards stuff that I am much more invested in. Um, just because of probably my autism. um, I tend to hyperfixate, but also it's like even with just in general, I tend to put my focus towards things that, I'm more into than something that I don't know if I'll be into. You know what I mean? I'm willing to give anything a chance, but, you know, it's like my mind kind of veers me in a direction a lot of the times. And so something like this, it's like that's why I've procrastinated on it for so long. But now we don't have to because it's a donation reward. Um, so yeah, I'm definitely interested to see how this goes down. And hopefully, for such a simple premise, it ends up being executed very well. But all of that being said, let's just find out. So, when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the movie. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So when this says it was inspired by a true story, it actually seems like it was based on a couple of true stories. What I'm seeing here is that it was based on 2 real-life events. The Manson family Tate murders, which the fact that this is based on something from the Manson family is wild. But also a series of break-ins that occurred in Bertino's neighborhood as a child. Bertino is the director, by the way, Brian Bertino. And some journalists also noted similarities to the Keddy Cabin murders from Keddy, California in 1981. But Bertino has not cited that as a reference. I also found out that Kristen was played by Liv Tyler. She's one of those actresses I would not recognize off the top of my head, but yeah. So this movie was interesting. Because this came out in 2008, and it feels very different from a lot of slasher movies you see, even ones nowadays, because there's no rhyme or reason to any of it. It's a complete random act of violence. No motive, no intent other than murder. Not only murder, but, terrorizing and murder. These 3 people who we never learn the identity of, who we never even see their faces even after they unmask. These 3 people just come out of nowhere, terrorize this couple who are at this vacation home. It's not even their regular home. They terrorize them and murder them. And there's nothing behind that. And Mike also comes in, is killed by James accidentally, but they would have killed him if, James hadn't. We even saw the bag-headed guy behind Mike. Also, apparently they have monikers, which aren't said in the movie, but apparently all 3 of them do have monikers that they're known by, at least in terms of the credits and whatnot. There's the man in the mask, who I guess is seen to be the leader of them. The one with the blonde hair is Dollface. I mentioned it looked like a porcelain doll. And the other one, who kind of looks like a porcelain doll as well, but has like the black hair as part of the mask, is Pinup Girl. So yeah, that's they have specific names, interestingly enough. But I like that this didn't have any motive. We never find out the identities of the killers. They get away completely scot-free from what we can tell. And in the end, they win. Even though it seems like Kristen was still alive, like, even if she survives, she's never going to be the same again. Because James is dead, Mike is dead, she went through a night of hell. It's like that's gonna leave some long lasting massive trauma. And again, that's even if she survived. She was alive in that moment, but we don't know if she actually survived in the end. Maybe the sequel will tell us that. I'm thinking that the sequel probably is going to touch on maybe the same killers, but different victims. And then there's also apparently a third movie that is currently in the works. It's not actually out yet, but it is being made. So there's at least going to be a trilogy of this. Um, but yeah, I think it's going to be different victims next time, either way. Um, I like that this film really focused on tension over like jump scares or anything else. And I'm not one of those people who will hate on jump scares. There's a lot of people out there who just hate on them, saying they're like cheap and, weak and not even that scary. It relies on just, loud noises and whatnot to make you jump rather than to actually scare you. I'm not one of those people who will say that because I don't believe that. I believe jump scares are valid. But I also like when a movie relies on tension. When the villains aren't like super actively doing stuff most of the time. You have these moments where they get more aggressive, but then there's moments like there's a good stretch of time where you don't even see them. You just see how the victims are reacting to what they've done. And a lot of this movie, like, they were kind of like just wandering around the grounds, scaring them, not actually doing anything specific. So when they did show up, especially in the background, like behind someone, like behind Mike, it's much creepier. The fact that they also didn't talk much at all. In fact, I think the man in the mask didn't talk at all the entire movie. Only the girls talked. Um, that the fact that they barely talked even then, though, also adds a certain layer of mysteriousness to it, which makes it feel, creepier. It makes it feel kind of what they were going for as like less personal and to where it's just, a random act rather than something that was like premeditated. The entire coming up to the house at first and like the entire is Tamara here thing, I think that was just a scoping thing. They were scoping to see if someone was home, just asked a random question. It wasn't for anything else. There was no other purpose behind it. It was just to add that certain layer of, like, let's check to see if anyone's home. Because in the end, that was what they claimed their motivation to be. It's like, why are you doing this to us? Because you were home. Again, there's no, like, straight up motive. There's no deep meaning to it. They're just psychopaths doing this because someone was here. And so it's like, okay, you ended up being here. Unlucky for you, I guess. That was literally it. And I like that there's no answers to this. Intentionally so. And then you had this movie like kind of book ended with these boys, these Jehovah's Witnesses or Mormons, kind of unclear, something like that. But you kind of have it bookended. At the beginning of the film, you hear the 911 call, you hear him freaking out and everything, and at the end, you see when they find it. Though, admittedly, these kids were really like non-perturbed by seeing dead bodies. Like you could maybe say that they were like super like just in shock, but that's quite the shock for two young boys to be in, to not react at all to it. The only time even one of them reacted was like when, Kristen jump scared him by popping up at the end being alive. Though we know that the emotion did hit them because again we heard the 911 call at the beginning. That kid was freaking the fuck out. I think it was just kind of like this disbelief, but it was a little weird that these kids weren't reacting at all. It was a little weird, admittedly. Um, but overall, I'd really say that this movie was good. I think it really did exactly what it set out to do and kind of just show a an unmotivated murder. Showcase a slasher film without any deep meaning or any kind of like connection between the killers and their victims or anything. Just a random act of violence with nothing behind it. And it worked the tension extremely well. The actors did a great job. I think just overall it was really good. And I mean, I guess I can only hope that the sequel is as good. Though it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to do a sequel to something like this because part of the appeal of this movie, at least for me, is the fact that I was not expecting it to be this random. I was not expecting it to be this, like, non-motive based. And as well as having that tension and the way the strangers were acting and everything, going into it as blind as I could. I mean, again, obviously I knew some things, like that it was a home invasion movie, but going in as blind as I could helped sell what they were trying to, show us as viewers. If with a sequel though, you can't just repeat the same thing because then it won't work as well. Again, in my opinion, part of the appeal is not knowing how it's going to turn out and not knowing how it's going to end up going. So if you have a sequel, you have to change up the formula a bit, and that's a risk. So I don't know how that's going to go down. I don't know what's going to happen, but apparently I guess it was popular enough to warrant a third movie coming out. So, hey. But yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts as well, though. So tell me in the comments below, what did you think of The Strangers? Let me know, and thank you so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.